Solid Deeds, feeper here coming at you with another video. With the release of Monster Hunter Rise, I wanted to make a quick guide for what is my favorite weapon in the game, the sword and shield. Now that the game has been out for a week, and now that I've done a fair amount of testing, I wanted to put together a comprehensive guide for beginners and people looking to improve with the weapon. While when I first started playing Monster Hunter back in Monster Hunter Tri, I was a dirty longsword main. Ever since 4U, I've been maining the sword and shield, and I gotta say, Rise's updates and changes to the weapon are some of my favorite. Now, if you're someone who is thinking about Sword and Shield and wants to know, what the weapon can do and if it's the right weapon for you, hopefully this guide will answer that question as well as giving everyone the basics of the weapon. So without further ado, let's dive in. Now, why should you play SNS? Isn't it just a beginner's weapon that you can stop using once you realize that the long sword and the great sword and the dual blades are the superior sword weapons? Well, that's kind of where you're wrong, kiddo. SNS has some of the most utility of any weapon in the game, only really rivaled by Hunting Horn and certain light bowguns, while providing great damage, the best status buildup of any melee weapon in the game, hands down, a ton of mobility, rewarding combos, and unique ways to control the space between you and the monster. While the weapon does have a simple bread and butter combo, there is a lot more that can be done to allow you to adapt to what you're trying to accomplish. So here we are in the training area of Rise. This is a great feature, and we're going to start with the basic combos. Now, I like to think of Sword and Shield as sort of 2 3-hit combos. So starting out, you have your X combo. Pressing it once will give you a chop. Pressing it twice, you'll go into a side slash. And then you'll do the Sword and Shield combo. You'll notice that that last hit actually does an attack with your shield. So that third hit in that combo is a shield hit, which means it doesn't apply elemental or status damage, and it does apply KO and stamina damage or exhaustion. So very important to keep that in mind. Now you can add one more hit to this combo by using the Rising Slash, which you can get to via a couple different ways. The easiest way is through a guard. So if you hold ZR, you will guard. If you press X, you will do this Rising Slash. Now this move is great for adding to your X combo, but also is great for hitting something like a Raytheon Tail, Diablos, Rathalos, any of that kind of stuff where you don't have a ton of mobility with this, or excuse me, you have a ton of mobility. You don't have a ton of verticality with this weapon unless you use a few things in terms of the switch skills. So this is a great way to, kind of get those tails, get those high up parts, and add on to your combo. So now you add a hit to your combo there like that. Now, there's 2 other ways that you can get into that Rising Slash to extend your X combo. The first way is by rolling. So if you roll and you press X, you will go right into Rising Slash. Pretty standard stuff. Now, the other way is by using the Advancing Slash. Now, this can be accessed either with your weapon sheath and then moving forward and pressing A, or X, excuse me, or by pressing XA with your weapon out. You also do not have to be moving with your weapon out. You can be from idle and just go right into it. Now, after this, pressing X or A will go right into Rising Slash. Now, if you keep pressing X, of course, you'll go into the X combo. If you keep pressing A, you'll go into the A combo. This is a great move for sort of catching up to the monster and starting your combo as you get to them instead of having to get right at it. So typically, if I'm running up to a monster, I'll do this. It's a great way to add extra damage. Now, the cool thing about the X combo is at any point you can transition to the A combo. So the A combo is also a 3-hit combo. Now, this is what it looks like without any directional input on your left stick, so keep that in mind. That's your 3-hit A combo. The A combo is a bit slower in terms of how long you're locked in animations and everything, but it is also stronger than the X combo. One thing to note about the A combo is that you cannot transition back to the X combo from it. Only the X combo can go into the A combo. Now, a pretty standard sort of bread and butter combination of these two that you would see a lot of players do in, say, Monster Hunter 4, 4 Ultimate, Generations, is you would do ZR plus X, 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 A, A. That's sort of like your standard 6-hit combo. Now, you might be wondering why we aren't using that final part of the X combo. It's because it takes pretty long to go off. The animation locks you in place for a while, and it also used to knock players around. But the big thing is that it just doesn't do as much damage as just going into your A combo. It's better to just do that and then go back into your combo immediately than add on the X combo most of the time. This final hit of the X combo is very, very good for building up status. For those of you who don't know, status for melee weapons has essentially a 33% chance to actually apply the effect. So that's why, you know, something like Sword and Shield and Dual Blades are often much better status weapons than, say, Greatsword, because they attack more often. Sort of a similar concept with Element, but not quite exactly the same, but you can apply the same logic. So again, R plus X, 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 A. Now there's a brand new move in Rise called the Spinning Reaper. This can be executed off of a few different things. Typically, it's off of the end of whatever one of your 3-hit combos are. So the first 3-hit combo in my mind is this. That's the 3-hit X combo, and then the 3-hit A combo. Again, I find it helps a lot with Sword and Shield to think about where in those 3-hit combos you are and sort of compartmentalize those two and then add them together. That's how I think of it in my head. Whatever works for you works for you. But I think that is a good way to sort of start with this weapon, because you'll realize pretty quickly that there's a lot of different things you can do, and it's very easy to get lost and not really understand what you should be using and what you should be doing. So just keep that in mind. Now, the Spinning Reaper can be executed by pressing X plus A after one of those 3 hits. So here it is with the A combo. And you'll notice that final hit is quite strong. Now, this can also be executed off of the X combo. But one thing to note is that this move will end your combo. You cannot go back into an X or an A combo, one of those 3 hits after the Spinning Reaper. That is essentially the end of that combo path. So a great way to start out playing the weapon, and a great combo that I still use all the time is, once again, ZR plus X, XX, A, X plus A for the Spinning Reaper. Now, if you played Sword and Shield in World, you may remember that at any point in one of those combos, well, I shouldn't say any point, but at most points in any of those combos, you could input a direction on your left stick and press X, and you would do this spinning attack, and you would be able to infinitely combo around and around and forever. Now, you notice that that's gone in this game. So I'm pressing X, and I'm holding the opposite direction, and my character's not doing anything. They replaced that function with this, with the Roundslash. So in order to do that same sort of infinite looping combo, you have to use the Roundslash now. So you can do chop, turn, chop, turn, chop, turn, chop, turn, chop, slash, turn. But you'll notice if you do that ending part of your combo, that 3rd hit of your combo, while yes, you can still turn, you will go into that Spinning Reaper and end it. So you have to make sure that you're using it before the 3rd hit of any of those combos. So again, 2 3-hit combos, and now you have to, I think of it as, if I want to change my direction, I then have to do it before the 3rd hit of one of those 3-hit combos. Now you can just press A. It sort of simplifies the combo a bit because you don't go into the X part. However, see how I did this final hit and then I went A? I can still keep the combo going like that. Now, while I personally don't use this combo a ton, I do use it a fair bit, and it can be a lot of fun, and it's a great way to just sort of keep your onslaught up on the monster, where, say, someone who's using a greatsword kind of has to get into their true charge slash or tackle or roll out of the way or reposition. You can kind of just keep on going and going and going, and that's one of the main advantages that this weapon has over everyone else in the game. This combo is also great for repositioning on the monster, say they move a little bit, or because of what you're doing on the monster, you're moving a little bit forward and you're really trying to hit a tail, you need to turn around. You can turn around while attacking still, so you don't have to completely reset yourself and then start up again. It's really, really useful. Again, just keep in mind, if you use X plus A after any of your 3rd hits of one of your 3-hit combos, you will Spinning Reaper, but you can extend your combo off of the X this, excuse me, by going into A. Now you can also sort of just do this forward infinite combo just by pressing A, X, A, X, A. Now we turn around. So a lot of different cool things you can do with that. I won't show you all the permutations because we'll be here for forever. But play around with it, have fun with it. It's a great way to start sort of advancing yourself with this weapon. Now, that's not all there is to this weapon. There's also many other options that you have accessed via what's called the Backstep. Now, the Backstep can be gotten to a few ways. The easiest way is by pressing back and A at the same time after any attack. Now, you'll notice it goes right back into that advancing slash, putting you about where you were. You're a little bit farther back than where you started, but you're about the same distance from whatever you're attacking if you do that combo. And then, of course, since you're doing an advancing slash, you can press X or A to go right into rising and continue your combo. And you have another infinite loop like this. This is a loop that I usually tend to do as opposed to doing the X plus A Roundslash loop. This loop right here is something that was new to World. And the other loop I showed you is something that's more akin to the old games, so I tend to go with that more because that's where I started. Again, both of them are good. Both of them are used in different situations. It really just depends on what the monster is going to be doing next and also what monster you're attacking. If it's something like a Lagambi, you know, you might not want to be doing a bunch of backsteps because it's going to be, they're kind of a thinner, taller monster. But if it's something like Tigrex, where it's very long and low to the ground, you know, it's very easy to hit with this and reposition around it, get out of some of its attacks. Now, another thing to know with the Backstep is you also have iframes during the animation. It's not the entire animation. I do think they increased it from World, and certainly from the older games, but you do have iframes during this. You can, you know, back hop roars and then go right back in and attack where everyone else is covering their ears. You can hop out of attacks and then go right back in. There's really no downtime with this weapon. It's really great. There's two other things you can do with the Backstep. If you do it and you hold back on the left stick and don't let go, you will do the rising slash, except you will stay in place where you are. This is great for, say, you think you want to go and rush back into a Backstep, but maybe Tigrex, or I don't know, I've been farming Tigrex for a Mushroom-Mancer Deco, so he's on my mind, but any monster will do. But say the monster is going to roar and you want to get out of the range of it, or they're going to be suddenly doing an attack you weren't expecting and you don't want to get hit. You can just hold back, get out of it, and then go right into a roll. Another thing that I should mention is a lot of these animations can be canceled very quickly by rolling. There's very few combos that lock you in place for very long. Now, the other thing you can do is if you hold the A button, you will do a charge slash. You do not have to hold back on the left stick and A, you just have to hold A. And this will cause you to jump forward, do a little bit more damage than the normal advancing slash. And then you can go right back into your A combos. However, or your X or A combos, I should say. Now, however, if you do collide with a monster, you'll do something different. You'll do the rising slash. Or scaling slash, excuse me. So it's a 2-hit combo that sends you slightly up in the air. And after this, you can do two things. Probably noticing a pattern. There's a lot of options with this weapon. You can press X to do a chop, which will obviously do cutting damage. Or you can press A to do the shield bash combo. Now this will again not apply status or element, but it will apply stamina and KO damage, and will also do just more damage than the chop will anyways. That chop you don't really want to use unless you are specifically going to try and cut a tail. Otherwise, it's usually better to just, I shouldn't say usually, it just is better to do the A combo. and just get the extra raw damage and the little bit of KO if you're on the face, a little bit of stamina buildup, whatever the case may be. And then after this, you can go right back into your X or your A combos. Back hop again, cancel it early. You can also just combo back into this as another infinite loop by just holding back an A. I believe in base world, this was actually the optimal way to do damage while the monster was downed. You just spam this. It's pretty fun. But yeah. So, a lot of options already. Now, there's one more thing you can do off of the back hop. It's called the Perfect Rush. This is something that was added in Iceborne. It's your highest DPS combo that you have. However, it does take a bit of time to execute, and you're also locked in place for the most part, and you just, in general, are much more vulnerable, so it's very risk-reward. You don't typically want to use this unless you really know the monster's tells, and you can squeeze them in, or when the monster's down. When you're starting out, I would say just use this when the monster's down, or when they're tired and they're just kind of drooling and looking at you. Don't try and, be a speedrunner or just, throw these in all the time wherever you can because it's your highest damage, because you're gonna get frustrated and you're gonna mess up a lot. So just don't worry about it. So if you backstep and press X, you will Perfect Rush. Now I'll show you the end of the combo right there in a second, but first I want to talk about those flashes you saw. So as you do this, your controller will vibrate if you have a controller that can vibrate, and your character will flash as well. Now, during these flashes, you will do more damage. The idea is that you time pressing the X or the A button when your character flashes in order to get more damage out. So I'll show you how much it does if you don't press anything. So after the flash, yeah, you can see it's that amount of damage. Say I did 41 and that shield hit. Now, if you time it correctly, you'll see about a 40% increase, I believe, if I did my math correctly. So you really want to be timing these. I just have it down to muscle memory at this point. I tend to listen for the sounds. I'm more of an audio-driven person when it comes to something like this. So I tend to listen. Oh, messed it up. I tend to listen for when to press it instead of looking. But at this point, it's just so muscle memory. I just know exactly, exactly what to do. Now, there's two things that you can do to end this combo. You can end it in a Spinning Reaper by pressing A at the end. So again, backstep, press X during it, A at the right time, and then boom, right into a Spinning Reaper. Or you can do X, and it will send you up in the air, similar to the charge back hop scaling slash. Except you notice you go a little bit higher this time. That's sort of an indication that you... It's not a very good indication, I'll admit, but it's an indication that you have more options. There's three things that you can do off of this, actually. Bear with me here. The first is just pressing X to do a chop again. Once again, you never want to do this. Like, literally never. The next is pressing X plus A to do a Helmbreaker. All right, it's not called Helmbreaker, but essentially is a Helmbreaker. Plunging Thrust. That will continue to hit the monster on the way down. The Plunging Thrust is great, however, for element and status buildup. It is great for cutting a tail or just breaking a monster's part because you can potentially hit it 3 or more times. And then the last thing you can do is press A, and you'll do a Falling Shield Bash. Once again, however, this time, it will hit 2 times on the way down. Both, of course, doing KO and stamina damage. That's the one that I typically end with. I like shields a lot, so I like smacking things with my shield. But again, the Plunging Thrust is a great option as well. Really, just avoid the chop. The chop is not good. Now, there's one more thing that you can do with the A combo. If you hold forward and press A, you have a new 3-hit combo. It will be Shield Attack, Shield Bash into Hard Bash. These are all attacks with your shield. It will do less damage than your standard 3-hit combo. However, it builds up KO. And you can, of course, X plus A to finish it off with a Spinning Reaper. So again, does less damage, but builds up KO and stamina, pardon me. This is great combined with something like the Slugger skill or Stamina Thief. It's also nice to just throw in every now and then just to help build up some damage. These attacks also cannot be deflected. Oh, I have white sharpness, so I can't show you. But on a monster part that's too hard for your weapon to hit, these will go through it. So it has Mind's Eye built in. Now, one more way that you can get into your backstep that's really, really quick, really, really easy, and is great for when a monster is downed, is you can guard and then press back plus A, and you'll go right into one. You don't even have to attack. So from Sheath, if you do it quickly enough, it looks like you're basically just going right into it. So this is great for, say, the monster's down, you want to run up, boom, and then right into Perfect Rush. Now, two slightly advanced things that I want to touch on real quick before we get into the switch skills with the Sword and Shield are delaying your inputs so you don't get hit by things. So the first thing I want to show you is with the Charge Slash. So you notice that I held it longer there, and it looks like there's a second sort of level of charge. It doesn't actually do more damage. The main idea of this is, say you are going into going into this, and the monster doesn't attack. You can hold on to this. Monster attacks, and then boom, go right into it. It's similar to just holding back on the stick right there to go into the Rising Slash to get out of harm's way. Now, another thing that you can do is delaying your Falling Bash. It's a little hard to see on that one. So let me do a Perfect Rush. But you can delay the input on your A button to give yourself a little bit more time in the air. So you notice how I was up in the air a bit longer there? This is particularly great for, say, you do a Perfect Rush on something like Nargacuga, and then it goes for its spinning sweep attack. You can then use that to get a little bit more time in the air and sort of be vaulting over it and then coming back down and doing an attack again. Now, the next thing is you can do the same sort of thing with Perfect Rush. Now, this may seem a bit counterintuitive at first, but you can purposely input your Perfect Rush timings wrong for your advantage. So you might be thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense. I thought you said you want to time it correctly to do more damage. Well, the reason you would want to do this is because if you input it wrong, the animation actually speeds up. So see how fast that upstrike was? Now, if I time it correctly, watch how slow it is. So right there, you saw it. It's hard to do, but you can do a really quick upper jab. It's slightly faster. It's ever so slightly faster than doing it normally, because you don't have to wait as long for the flash to come up to input the timing correctly. The only time you really want to do this is if you know the monster is about to be, say, getting up from a knock or a KO, and then you know, okay, if I don't speed this up, I won't land the final part of my Perfect Rush, which is where most of my damage is, because that's what allows you to go up in the air and do a Falling Bash combo. So I'm going to purposely mess this up to then be able to get those extra hits off. It's very, very situational, very, very situational, but it is something I wanted to bring up. It is something of a more of advanced technique, but it's definitely something to consider, because that will definitely separate you from the average Joe Sword and Shield player. Now, you can also delay your input of these a little bit. See how long you can delay these now? It's much more forgiving than it was in World. And the reason you'd want to do that is because, say, you're trying to hit the monster's head, and it's flailing its head around as they do. you can use this to make sure you line up your attack correctly. And it's particularly useful on the final hit, the final thrust. Because that part, from what I have played, it seems like the hitbox for that is actually thinner than it was in World. It seems it's a bit harder to land. So just keep those little tiny, tiny manipulations of your animations and of the way that the weapon works to your advantage. You know, remember, you can hold the back hop for longer to make sure that you don't get hit by an attack. You can delay your falling bash a bit to get a little more uptime. The dodge moves. And then, of course, you can delay or speed up your perfect rush animations to make sure that you land the parts of the combo that you want to land where you want to land them. Now, my favorite part of Sword and Shield in this game is what I'm about to show you. So, there's one guard move that I haven't talked about yet. Some of you might have been wondering, oh, you know, he talked about what happens if you do ZR plus X. What happens if you do ZR plus A? So you do the guard slash. So this is a move where you keep your shield up the whole time, so you can attack while guarding, similar to Lance. However, you can't do anything out of this. You can't combo with anything without the animation resetting. It looks like you can, but technically speaking, the animation has to fully reset before you can do anything. So do keep that in mind. But you'll notice that I'm glowing blue. Typically, this is a move that you literally would never use. You never used it in any of the old games. It was pretty much worthless. But now, you can do something really cool with it. If you time it correctly, you can go into a shield bash, and then out of the shield bash, you can perfect rush. Very, very fun. Very, very cool. This works on roars. This works on things that will tremor you. This works on attacks, of course. You do have to time it correctly, though. This will also proc offensive guard. However, you have to make sure the guarding portion of this animation is timed correctly. You cannot just hold guard and time this portion. Oh, I messed it up there. I'm just so good with timing it by out of guard that I messed it up. without holding guard. But you'll see there I did not get the offensive guard proc. However, here I did. Just keep that in mind if you are using offensive guard with this weapon. Now, if you press X, you will go into this perfect rush. And one thing I want to mention also, that shield bash does a lot, and I mean a lot, of stun damage. It does a lot of KO. It does a lot of stagger. You will often stagger monsters with that move if they're even remotely close to the threshold. So keep that in mind. But pressing X will cause you to leap forward normally and do perfect rush. However, you can also press A and go right into a stationary perfect rush. So this is really great if you're, say, in the monster and you don't want to go flying forward because then you're going to be out of range. And perfect rush is not something that allows you to just sort of turn very easily. You can turn a little bit, but you really can't turn that much. So this is great for staying right underneath the monster and right on top of them and going right into that combo. This is definitely my favorite addition of Sword and Shield to this game. It's super, super rewarding to just like have a Diablos fly out of the ground and then you just guard point him, go right into perfect rush and stagger him. It's just like the greatest thing ever. Now, another thing you can do with Sword and Shield is you can actually use items with your weapon out, unlike any other weapon in the game. So if you have your weapon out, you guard, and you press Y, nom 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 nom, you can eat a well-done steak. Or you can throw a dung bomb. Or you can sharpen. Well, I guess everything can sharpen with their weapon out now, but you know, very useful for using a potion. One thing to note with potions, actually, is when you... And they changed this from World. So in World and Iceborne, when you used a potion with your weapon out, it used to force you to move at this speed. Now, of course, if you have a potion out and you hold the R button, you can run around faster while drinking it, right? In World, you would always be moving at that slower speed by using a potion with your weapon out. So it was honestly faster to just sheath and just glub, 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 right? Take the potion that way. However, in Rise, they did this a solid. And now, when you potion, you move at the full speed the whole time. You don't even have to press the button. So a small little thing to note there. Sword and Shield is also great for, say, you know, using a flash bomb on a Rathalos because you don't have to put your weapon away to throw it out. You can just throw it out. This also is very useful for, say, if you want to do like a Mushroom-mancer wide range build. Obviously, you have that whole thing going where you can use all your items while your weapon is out and potentially save someone's life as opposed to having to put your weapon away. Not that your sheath is very long, but it is still something that you have over, say, a greatsword. Would have to build quick sheath 3 with that and then get all those other skills in there, and even then it would still not be as good as sword and shield. So now there's 2 more things before we continue to the switch skills. If you press X plus A up a ledge, you will do a jumping slash, which you can then combo into an X or A combo. It will do mount damage. And if you press X plus A off, you will do the jumping advancing slash, which you can then combo into an X or A combo, excuse me. Now, let's talk about the switch skills. So, the wire bug skill that you will always have on you is Falling Shadow. This is activated by pressing ZL and X. And that's what it looks like. Now, this move is great for covering distances or getting out of harm's way without having to put your weapon away if you don't have enough time. But it's also great for, say, hitting a monster's head that's high up in the air, or just continuing combos and making sure that you're never off of the monster. I mostly use this as a gap closer type of ability, but it's very fun and is very good. It will send you into that higher aerial state that allows you to do the jumping slash, or excuse me, the Helmbreaker type move, the plunging thrust with X plus A, and the double falling bash combo. Now the other switch skill, the one that you can change out and will take 2 wire bugs. I have infinite wire bugs on for the sake of this video, so don't pay attention to that in the bottom, but is Windmill. Really, really cool animation. Does a ton of hits. Very good for element, very good for status. And the neat thing is that you also have iframes. So let me go show you that. So, as you can see... Oh no, scary Taronka Tronker. Alright, boom. Also, that is the scientific way of pronouncing his name. So you can see there, I didn't get hit. Now, you don't have iframes throughout the entire thing, so you have to be careful with that. But you can use this to phase through roars, phase through attacks. It's kind of a good, like, oh crap button. If you're not, like, you're like, I don't know what's happening, I'm just going to windmill. And then you can combo this right into your X combo. However, that is the only thing you can do after a windmill. You can also go into a back hop, although you do have to actually guard first. You can't just press X plus A. So, technically speaking, you can't go into a back hop from the move, but if you just let the guard go off, then you can. However, you will notice you cannot go into your A combo from this, so keep that in mind. You can only go directly into your X combo and sort of into a back hop, but technically speaking, you cannot. We talked about the 2 wire bug moves. Now let's talk about the other wire bug move that replaces Windmill, Metsu Shurigeki. This is my second favorite edition. Actually, I don't know. I think I might like Shurigeki more than the guard point, but we'll see. So, Shurigeki is also a 2 wire bug move, and it has a longer recovery than Windmill. And you'll go assume this sort of guarded stance for a second, and then you will go up in the air, in which case you can do a falling bash, which will hit twice, or for some reason, you can only plunging thrust here. You cannot go into the chop. Why, when you do the other scaling slashes, like off of your other wire bug move, you go into your jumping slash, or perfect rush, you can do the jumping slash. Why you can do that just by pressing X, and then off of Shurigeki, X will always plunging thrust? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me, but just keep that in mind. Now this does a good bit of KO, good bit of damage, and, you know, pretty cool, pretty fun, whatever, right? However, if you time this off of a hit, you'll go higher in the air, get a really cool sound. Oh, it's so good. and you'll do way more damage. Oh, I didn't press ZL. You, even without Slugger, can just, if you hit enough times on the monster's part, on the face, excuse me, you can KO monsters instantly with this skill. It's actually insane. It's so much fun to use this thing. I think, technically, from a DPS standpoint, I believe timing this correctly, if you get enough hits, does do more damage than Windmill, but Windmill is much, much safer. And much, much more user-friendly, because this has a pretty narrow guard on it. You notice if I do this, see, I get hit. So you really have to make sure that you're right on the move. And, of course, you have to time this as well. But I love using this more. It's so much fun. This is, you know, obviously a throwback to Shurigeki from Generations Ultimate, where Windmill is a throwback to Round Force from Generations Ultimate. So both great skills, both great for different things. I just think Shurigeki is way more fun and way more stylish. Quick edit, I did some more testing, and Windmill does technically do more damage than Shurigeki, but once you add in the Falling Bash portion of what Shurigeki allows you to do, or the Plunging Thrust, Shurigeki does do more damage overall. So Windmill, less damage, but safer and easier to use. Shurigeki, higher risk, higher reward. Now for the last two switch skills, let's go ahead and put them on. One of them replaces your Advancing Slash. That's the move that if you know, from Sheath, you press X or X plus A while your weapon's out. Also, let me go and turn this guy off since we don't need him to stomp anymore. All right, so now that he's no longer stomping, the Sliding Slash replaces your Advancing Slash and looks like this. So you do a little slide forward. Again, it's accessed the same way. Your X plus A with your weapon out, or X forward and X, I should say, with your weapon sheath. And you notice that you can kind of turn a little bit more with this move because of the slide than you can with the Advancing Slash. Now, if you collide with the monster, you'll do something different. But if you press A during this, you can go right into a Jumping Rising Slash. If you do collide, you'll go into a Scaling Slash, and then you can do your standard Falling Bash. Oh, I was too far away there. You can do your Jumping Slash there if you're trying to cut a tail. And just loop this over and over again. This is basically Aerial Sword and Shield from Generations Ultimate. And this is great to sort of patch up your verticality issues. This is, I find, very, very useful on monsters like Raytheon, like Rathalos and Diablos. If you're really trying to go for that tail carve, I do typically put this on. So again, that's Sliding Slash. I typically tend to use the Advancing Slash. It's just what I'm used to. But this one definitely has its merits, and it's definitely really good against certain monsters, allowing you to get up in the air, hit those tails, and show those longsword players who the real tail cutters are and who the real sword weapon is in this game. Am I right? Now, the other switch skill, I think, is kind of broken. I think it's really, really good. Probably a little too good. It replaces your hard bash combo with a new combo. And it technically does more raw damage than your standard 3-hit A combo like that. So technically speaking, if you do have this on, you should use it all the time over this combo, except for the fact that it does have longer, it does lock you in place longer in terms of animation, so you can't roll out of it as easily, so you are a bit more vulnerable. So keep that in mind. But from a straight DPS standpoint, it does do more raw. Granted, it's, I think, 4 raw more from my testing, but it is technically more raw. But this move really, really shines for element and particularly status. The description says element. It puts a big emphasis on element, I should say. But this is just straight up broken for status sword and shield. Like, it's insane. Like, granted, I do have a sleep attack 3 ramped up for sleep baggy sword and shield with like 41 sleep on it. But I mean, when you're getting 6, 7 sleeps in a hunt because of this move, like, it's insane. So it's accessed the same way as the hard bash combo by pressing forward and A. It starts out the same with the shield attack, but then it goes into a thrust, basically the same animation as the ending part of Perfect Rush. And pressing it again will will go into this Drill Slash. Now, the Drill Slash will hit 3 times. And each of those hits can crit. They can apply status. And, of course, they do damage. Now, you can also cancel out of this into a Roundslash in case the monster moves and you want to keep going like that. And you can also end this with a Spinning Reaper. So, again, advantages are this does way more, not way more, but it does a lot more element and a lot more status damage than just your normal A combo. And a little bit more raw. However, you are more vulnerable because you cannot roll out of this final hit as easily. That whole animation right there you can't get out of. But it is a great DPS option, and if you're really trying to not go KO, it's a fantastic move. Now, don't quote me on this. I feel like if you do apply status during that attack, it does just straight up more status buildup. And I think it also just does more elemental damage. Like, for example, Perfect Rush in Iceborne did more elemental and status damage than you normally would. I don't know. It could just mean they could just be saying, hey, it does more element and status because you're hitting more times, which is typically better for those damage types. Or it could mean literally, yes, the buildup or the actual effect is greater. I can't really test super well about that. Just something to note. Don't quote me on it. If anyone knows in the comments, please let me know. But regardless, very, very good move. And if you're going for status or element, I would highly recommend this. Obviously, if you're going for KO, go with the hard bash combo. And I mean, if you don't like this move, like, you can still do great status and element damage with the normal weapon. But this will be the preferred way to apply those things. So that pretty much covers all the moves for the Sword and Shield. Again, I like to think of things in those 3-hit combos. You have your standard X 3-hit X combo, your standard 3-hit A combo. Then, of course, you have your forward 3-hit A combo. And then you have Perfect Rush, which is also essentially a 3-hit combo. That's what it looks like if you whiff everything. And then going up in the air, you have a bunch of different options about what you want to do on the way down. And this weapon is really just option central. You have a ton of different ways to stick on the monster. We have a ton of different ways to avoid the monster. Really unique ways to control the space with things like the back hop, sliding slash, advancing slash, falling shadow. I mean, there's just tons of different things you can do. This, it may seem like you have a ton of too many choices and you kind of have choice paralysis. So if you're thinking, okay, where do I start? I want to just, how do I start with this weapon? What do I do? What I would say is don't use sliding slash at first. I would say use advancing slash. If you really want to use sliding slash, like, go for it. I just think it's a bit easier and more straightforward with advancing slash. And I think a great way to just start playing the weapon and get used to things while still being able to do good damage is to just X plus A, X, 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 A, X plus A, and then go right into charge slash, sailing slash, and just loop this over and over and over. I mean, this is essentially what you would do in, say, Generations or 4U. Of course, you didn't go up in the air in those games, but you didn't have Spinning Reaper, but essentially the same combo. So I would stick with this if you're a new player to this weapon and you really don't know where to start and you feel like you just have too many options between, should I be perfect rushing? Should I be using sliding slash and going up in the air? Should I be spamming the back hop and just doing falling bash? Like, I don't know what to do. Should I be using drill slash? Like, I would just say start with that combo and just do that until you get a good feel for the weapon and you have that combo down, and then start to experiment with things. Then, maybe you can go into the infinite loop combo with Roundslash, or you'll figure out ways to work in the backstep or work in perfect rush. Slowly add those things in, but I would say start with just the tried and true 3-hit X, 3-hit A, backstep into falling bash, and just loop that over and over again. It's good damage, it's good status, it's good element, and it'll be a great way to start with the weapon. Now, if you're a bit more advanced, I would say the biggest thing that I can say as a blanket statement, because a lot of my decisions with what I do with Sword and Shield depend on what the monster, or at least what I think the monster is going to be doing next. So it's really hard to say, oh, in XYZ scenario, you should do this combo. The biggest gap is going to be how many perfect rushes you can get off. So again, running up to the monster, going into that sort of advanced technique I showed you where you go right into a guard, and then just doing this over and over again, and just figure out how many perfect rushes can I squeeze in without getting hit, and of course getting the entire thing off. I would say that's probably the biggest thing to master, because a lot of the rest of the weapon really depends on, are you using element? Are you using status? Are you trying to KO the monster? Are you going for a part break? Obviously if you're going for KO, you don't want to be using... Speaking of KOs, you don't want to be using the thrust as much. You want to maybe just be spamming this. Or if you're going for a tail break, you do want to be using this. Or if you're going for status, you want to be using that. It really depends on what you're trying to do, so keep that in mind. Between that and then learning when to purposely mess up your timings or delay your timings to get more safety and be able to control what your hunter is doing versus the monster, I think those are the things that you should do afterwards once you get comfortable with the weapon in order to sort of separate yourself from the rest of the pack. Now, the last section of this guide is going to be skills. Sword and Shield is unique in the sense, well, I mean, it's unique in many different ways, but in case you haven't figured out already, but it's even more unique in the fact that you can kind of build whatever you want. Personally, myself, I really, really like handicraft. This weapon does tend to blow through sharpness fairly quickly because you're attacking so often, especially if you use the thrust into drill slash combo because you're hitting those 3 times. So I tend to like handicraft. Of course, you can, make an argument for razor sharp. So figuring out a way to maybe circumvent the sharpness issue is usually where I tend to start. But again, Sword and Shield is great for element and great for status. So if you're going to be using one of those, I obviously would go with status or sleep attack 3 or para attack 3 or thunder attack 5, whatever the case may be, right? Other blanket skills that I really, really like, I'm loving offensive guard right now. I am loving guard up, and I am loving guard. The reason being is because this move right here, going into that sort of guard point into your perfect rush, which I just find to be very, very fun, is dependent on the level of your guard. So if you have 0 points in guard, Mizutsune's Roar, you're not going to be able to use this on it. You're going to get knocked back. However, I think it's guard 3 you need. Don't quote me on that. I'm honestly just making that up. Don't quote me on that. But if you have enough points of guard, you will be able to then, say, block Mizutsune's Roar. There are a few things where you just can't use this move against it. Like Tigrex's Spin and Tigrex's Roar, you will always get knocked back even with guard 5. But guard 5 will let you block pretty much everything and be able to counter and use perfect rush like that. And then, of course, timing it correctly will also give you offensive guard. So I'm really liking offensive guard, guard up, because that way you can block more things. You can also do something really, really, really fun with like wide range 5 and then Mushroom Mancer and say speed eating, and you can basically just heal your team through everything because you can use use items with your weapon out. So that's a pretty specific niche that Sword and Shield has that pretty much no other weapon in the game does, because they all have to sheath to use weapons, or use items, excuse me. So that's another fun build that you can do. Of course, you can just go with your standard sort of crit boost, Wex type of build, or just like straight raw damage. Slugger is great if you're going to be using a raw weapon or even an element weapon and trying to go for those KOs and say, really using Shurigeki to get those KOs. Slugger is a great skill for that. Bludgeoner is a great skill for certain weapons, especially with the Dulling Strike ramp up skill. Basically everything in the game is viable except for things like, Rapid Morph. Focus is not good. I don't think Focus increases the charge rate of your charge slash. I tried testing it and it seemed exactly the same to me. I think if it does, it's so negligible because it's only a 15% boost that it's not worth using. So I would avoid Focus. I would avoid like Rapid Morph. Obviously any bowgun skills. Evade Extender is actually pretty nice because your back hop will go farther. So if you're trying to hop around like an NBA player, maybe you want to look into that. Evade Window is a skill I tend to typically avoid as a whole, just because I think it can develop really bad habits once you use it for too long and then you take it off. But it will give you more iframes on your back hop, so if that's something that you want, feel free. But other than that, yeah, I mean, the skills are really pretty much up to you. Again, I really like guard up 1 with guard 5 on my builds, and then just gemming in whatever the status or element I'm using is. I think it's really, really fun. Of course, if you want to get more just immediate damage, you can go for things like attack boost, crit, wax, crit boost, whatever. You can go for, say, more of a meta thing. It's really up to you. Play around with it. Find a build that you like. There really, honestly, isn't a bad skill on this weapon, except for the skills that just genuinely don't affect it at all, like bowgun skills, like rapid more, things like that. Obviously, avoid them, but if you see something like, if you get a Wirebug Whisperer wide range deco or charm, like, try and do a build around it. Like, it will absolutely work on this weapon. It's one of the best things about this weapon is that you really can't go wrong with the skills you're using. So that is going to be it for this guide. Thank you all for watching if you made it to the end. I really, really appreciate it. I've had a lot of fun writing this script, although honestly most of it was just like in the training room sort of ad-lib, but hopefully I didn't miss anything. If I did, I will try and catch it and do an edit or post something in the description or pin a comment to say what I missed and explain what it is. But that should be an overall sort of view of the Sword and Shield. Hopefully, if you're wondering if this weapon is a weapon you want to check out, you now know the answers to that. I hope the answer is yes. This weapon is a ton of fun. It's definitely not a beginner's weapon that has no depth. This weapon is very complex, yet you can also play it in a very simple way. It has a lot of ability, a lot of unique things you can do with builds, and overall, it's just a great weapon. So thank you all for checking out the video. Happy hunting, and I will see you in the next one.